Tonight in 9 News, under the knife, the $1.5 billion plan to finally slash Victoria's elective surgery backlog. The race to be Prime Minister shaping up as a bitter personal contest, with the election to be called any day. First on 9, conductors back on Melbourne's public transport to make bus trips easier. Doing it for the kids, thousands hit city streets for Melbourne's favourite fun run. A monster truck teetering on the brink, and the driver's lucky escape leaves fans on the edge of their seats. And the Blue Baggers hold on by a point in a heartstopper against the Hawks.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. Turning Frankston Private Hospital into a public surgery facility is the centrepiece of a $1.5 billion plan to slash Victoria's chronic elective surgery backlog. The state government is promising to operate at 125% of normal capacity. But long-suffering patients say actions speak louder than words. Stephanie Anderson reports.
It's been 11 months since what felt like intense heartburn highlighted the need for a triple bypass, and Paul Walsh is still waiting for surgery.
But as time progresses, it tends to get to you psychologically, it wears you down.
The 53-year-old construction worker is a Category 2 patient and among tens of thousands of Victorians stuck on the elective surgery wait list.
The reality is there's people in jeopardy of dying.
Cutting through the COVID-exacerbated backlog is the focus of a $1.5 billion plan announced by the state government this morning. It includes a 7-year deal to take over Frankston Private, with 2 wards and eventually 7 theatres to be solely dedicated to public surgeries.
This is not just about getting back to pre-pandemic levels. This is about doing better, doing more.
It'll mean help close to home for those in the southeast, but patients from across the state could be among the 9,000 surgeries to be delivered here each year.
Endoscopy, general surgery, orthopaedics, urology, gynecology will transition to use both sites.
There's also cash for same-day surgeries and extended hours throughout the public system, and plans for 8 rapid access hubs dedicated to procedures like hernia repairs and cataracts. Another $20 million will fund more equipment, while $80 million has been allocated to upskilling an exhausted workforce.
It's very important to appreciate it's not a quick fix, it's an appropriate build.
This is Groundhog Day. 2 years ago, the government said they're going to provide $1.3 billion worth of funding, and it just never eventuated.
With the extra capacity this private hospital offers, the state government is hopeful an additional 40,000 surgeries will be delivered across the system next year. But we're yet to see the most up-to-date figures on just how many Victorians are on that wait list.
When they've collated all of those results, they'll release them.
At the end of December last year, the total was almost 81,000, but it's those yet to even be identified that has the front line particularly worried.
We know that there's roughly 3 months of cancer diagnoses that we're missing.
They should have the right to be medically well looked after in today's society. It's 2022, not 1922.
All right, let's go live now to Stephanie at Treasury Place. Steph, the Premier is back to work tomorrow.
He is, Alicia. That elective surgery announcement was the last on the list for the acting Premier, with Daniel Andrews officially released from isolation at midnight tonight. Now, that's despite his wife, Kath, confirming yesterday that she too now has the virus. That won't affect his ability to leave the house because he has done his full 7 days. Interesting to note too that he will now have 8 weeks of guaranteed freedom because, like all Victorians, once you've recovered from the virus, you are exempt from all testing and close contact rules, Alicia.
OK, Stephanie Anderson there. Thank you. East Gippsland is bracing for damaging winds this evening, along with continuing heavy rain. More than 200 millimetres has been recorded in some parts of the region since 9 a.m. yesterday. Multiple flood alerts were issued, along with a prepare to take shelter warning as the weather system approached. The federal election will be called this week, and the battle lines have been drawn between the two contenders. As political editor Chris Uhlmann reports, it's shaping up as a bitter personal contest.
The man who is Prime Minister.
Set to go.
And the man who wants his job. Scott Morrison will call an election this week and set a day to meet the people in mid-May, where the choice will be between two leaders. Today, one was selling his wares in Tasmania.
More people in work, more people investing, unemployment coming down, growth going up.
And the other took his roadshow north to Queensland.
I have a plan for a better future. I have a plan where no one will be left behind and no one held back.
There's much talk of plans on both sides, but the major plan seems to be to boil this contest down to character attacks.
It's a choice between a pathological liar and a gutless fraud, which is what the Prime Minister essentially has dubbed you. That's a pretty low-rent campaign, isn't it?
Well, the critique of Scott Morrison, of course, is coming from his own side.
The latest shot fired from within the Prime Minister's own ranks is a blast from the past, with claims Scott Morrison made racist remarks about a competitor in the 2007 race to win pre-selection in his New South Wales seat of Cook.
These are quite malicious and bitter slurs, which are deeply offensive, and I reject them out absolutely.
The Coalition's charge against Anthony Albanese is that he would become Australia's most left-wing Prime Minister. He denies it.
My view is very clear, that Labor has to represent mainstream Australia.
And the opposition leader hit out today at the left's cancel culture, where people like author J.K. Rowling are vilified for daring to disagree with transgender activists.
What we need to do is to respect every individual for who they are and not engage in that sort of cancel culture. It doesn't move things forward, it just divides society. And one of the things...
So I should be allowed to say pregnant women rather than pregnant people and not be cancelled?
Of course you should.
And should we be allowed to say things like men can't have babies?
Of course.
Both leaders are promising cheaper, greener electricity. The Prime Minister today inking a deal to get more hydropower from Tasmania.
The battery of our nation, as it will be, as it powers up the rest of the Australian economy.
Labor pledges a lower near-term emissions target and lower costs.
What we're promising is practical reforms that make a difference. And in energy, they're based upon what the experts say.
And both are honing their very similar lines.
We've had the right plan, we've made the right decisions, and that means our economy is strong.
We have a plan to grow the economy. We have a plan as well for an economy that works for people, not the other way around.
In less than 50 days, we'll have a winner. Chris Ullman, 9 News.
Ukraine says it's retaken the entire Kyiv region and discovered horrifying evidence of the retreating soldiers' brutality. The country's presidential advisor has told Karine Greenbank the civilian deaths amount to war crimes. And a warning for you, some viewers may find her report confronting.
The city of Bucha is hell on earth. Corpses of civilians line the streets, more than 20 counted along this stretch, and 300 people are buried in a mass grave, according to the city's mayor. This man saying these people were just walking and they were shot without reason. The horror of what unfolded here on the outskirts of the capital has now been revealed as Ukrainian troops reclaim the city. Alexei Arestovich has just returned from Bucha. He's President Zelensky's right-hand man.
How devastating was the situation in Bucha?
He tells us war crimes were committed, claiming people were shot in the head, their hands tied.
It's Russian style of war.
As the advisor to the office of the president, Alexei says Ukraine has now forced Russian troops out of much of the Kyiv region. Claiming in 2 or 3 days we will push them out to the Belarus border. That's welcome news for soldiers manning checkpoints in the capital, like Yevgeny Slavny.
What kind of relief do you feel from that?
Yeah, we defended our city.
The Ukrainian government says its troops have now reclaimed more than 30 towns and villages here in the Kyiv region, but it's warning there are heavy battles to come in the east and south.
The key port city of Odessa in the south already under fire, as a peaceful protest in Energodar in the southeast was shattered by shelling and shooting. Russian troops firing on residents at a site that's close to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. But Alexei Arestovich believes Russia's military resources are almost spent. He's claiming it only has enough supplies left for another fortnight or so of active combat.
So do you think Russian troops could leave Ukraine in as little as 2 to 3 weeks?
They offered it in negotiations in Istanbul, he says, telling us Russia will likely try to claim the devastated city of Mariupol next to strengthen its negotiating position, saying the regions of Donetsk, Luhansk and Crimea are all open for discussion at the peace talks. The former military man, now somewhat of a wartime hero, the public wants selfies but needs solutions. In Kiev, Ukraine, Karianne Greenbank, 9 News.
And Russian police have detained more than 200 people demonstrating over the country's invasion of Ukraine. Arrests were made across 17 cities, with the majority carried out in Moscow and St Petersburg. A journalist covering the rallies has also reportedly been detained. Conductors are returning to Melbourne's public transport. A handful of new customer service officers are being employed across parts of the maligned bus network to improve the daily commute. Elizabeth Moss has this exclusive report.
When you're riding the bus, it's nice to see a friendly face or two. Meet Meninda and Gertesh, for the past 2 months stationed at depots and stops across parts of the network. Their job, in short, helping everyone get where they need to be.
Sometimes they really don't know where to go and where to catch the buses. We really help with them with that.
Or sometimes just simple things like, where's the nearest taxi rank or...
After more than 2 years working as a refueller for Gertesh, this was the perfect fit.
I love talking, so where else would you talk with people who don't speak the same language or speaking, or old people that I don't usually hang with.
They are among 10 new customer service officers employed by Kinetic, which operates about a third of Melbourne's bus network.
We think that's going to be an absolute game changer for people.
The Public Transport Users Association says some busier routes will be better suited than others for the new staff.
I think some of us remember tram conductors on the trams. It does make sense, I guess, to look at what can be done to improve the service on buses, and this, it is worth a try.
The officers are all being watched from here.
31308, just wondering how far you're off your changeover.
A new operation control centre.
Buses that are green tell us that they're on time, which is why we're really happy to see so many of them.
Staff have eyes and ears on more than 500 buses a day from Frankston to the airport.
From the minute they go out on the road in the morning to the minute they come back.
If the customer service officers are well received, Kinetic hopes to employ more across the network. The aim is this initiative, coupled with the new control centre, will help create a better commuter experience and, most importantly, result in fewer delays.
We're seeing improvements happening in our service delivery. We really do think that a third of the Melbourne's bus fleet through Kinetic is going to run better on time, be more reliable.
For some, when it comes to improving the commute, the answer is simple.
Ultimately, we do need to see more bus services running. That's what's really going to help get people on board.
Elizabeth Moss, 9 News.
The streets of Melbourne were bustling this morning when thousands of colourful joggers hit the road for a good cause. After 2 years, Run for the Kids returned, raising funds and heart rates for the Royal Children's Hospital. And Maggie Rayworth joined them.
And just like that, Run for the Kids was back.
I have 4 kids and they love superheroes, so...
Presenting the Narre Warren Fire Brigade's running fire engine, complete with all the bells and whistles.
So we built the fire engine in our top secret research laboratory, which is our garage.
Today was all for the kids, like beautiful Bella Allen, whose team of 240 was running for her this year.
My daughter was diagnosed with leukaemia 6.5 years ago, and she lost her battle in January.
Thousands of joggers hitting the pavement for a good cause. Today, more than $1.2 million was raised for the Royal Children's Hospital. The Minion motivators were out in force. That's a job they take very seriously.
We motivate everyone every year to get over the Balti Bridge.
Yeah, encourages everyone. We're doing this.
These princesses swapping glass slippers for runners.
This year, my beautiful friends decided they'd join in the fun and all dress up for the occasion.
From the Lord Mayor to the wonderfully wacky, this was an event Melbourne jumped for.
Well, the event is in its 16th year. This morning is
particularly special. That's because in 2020 it went virtual, then last year it was postponed, so of course there's an extra buzz today.
A few false starts, so it's just terrific to have the event back. And, you know, I kind of woke up this morning thinking, is this real? Is it actually going to happen?
Crossing the finish line first was Liam Adams, running the 14.8 kilometres in just under 44 minutes.
It was good, yeah. I was surprised at the fitness today.
While the fastest woman was Sinead Diver, completing the course in under 50.
Really enjoyed it.
Big steps here for a hospital that always keeps the pace when it matters most. Maggie Rayworth, 9 News.
Under siege, Hawthorn President Jeff Kennett has tested positive to COVID. The 74-year-old is in isolation and missed today's blockbuster against Carlton at the MCG. It comes a day after reports emerged of a racism row between him and club legend Cyril Rioli, which drew an apology from the Hawks and calls for his resignation. OK, up next with a look ahead to tonight's sport, here is Clint Stanaway.
Hi Alicia, thanks so much for that. Tonight, 3 on the trot. Those Blues mean business, but the Hawks made them work for it in a wild last quarter. King reigns at Marvel as the Saints shocked the Tigers. The Magpie young gun who went toe-to-toe with Joel Selwood.
That's my role, to get under people's skins, and I did that and kicked a goal from it, so yeah, it's good.
Also coming up tonight, a fierce storm rolls into Amy Park and the Dogs did not stand a chance. Elisa Healy's magical knock as the Aussies get their hands on another Cricket World Cup, and the tackle that's put Jordan De Goey in a spot of bother. That's all coming up soon for you, Alicia.
Look forward to it, Clint. We'll see you very soon. OK, up next for you in Melbourne's 9 News, how a watch saved 2 kayakers lost in the middle of the night in Victoria's southwest. Victorian kids to benefit from new hubs focusing on mental health, and the weatherman who interrupted his live report to warn his kids of a tornado.